بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم الحمد لله رب العالمین و صلی الله علی محمد و آل الطاهرین. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The topic that we are following is the issue of the communications, the skills of the communications, and the characteristics and the qualifications of enhancing the process of communication to a successful process. In the previous discussions, we talked about different issues in the subject matter of the communications, about the definition, types, topics, about the levels of communication, hierarchy, and also information richness. We talked about the barriers of communications. And from the last phase of our previous discussion, we started a new phase about the models of communication. If you remember, we pointed out that the first person who gave a model for communication was Aristotle. Aristotle argues that there are three elements in each kind of communication, that is logos, pathos, and also, as a matter of fact, ethos. Ethos are the moral facts, the good wills, and also referring to the nature of a person and to the sender who is speaking. The other part is the as a matter of fact, the pathos, who is auditor or the receiver, who is the kinds of the, as a matter of audiences, and also the message that we talked about. Today we will talk about another theoretician who is Lasswell. Lasswell, who, as a matter of fact, pointed out the sequence of a linear pattern of communication in 1948, coined a new process of the communication, which is the best one until now. Before talking about the elements, I have to mention that there are near 100 types of the models of communication that here, since we have just very limited time and limited sessions about communications, and these lessons are one part of a whole field of study, which is Islamic studies. So we cannot talk very in detail about the kinds, definitions, and parts of the communications. However, we will talk about just some of the models. The Lasswell model of communication, which is linear, says that a communication has 5 elements. First, who. Second, what. Third, how. Fourth, to whom. Fifth, with what effect. So, who says what, via which channel, to whom, with what effect. These are the 5 elements of communication. So, who, what, how, to whom, with what effect. So, who is the communicator or the sender of the information? What is, for example, says what is the message, the second element in his model. In what channel can be the medium that you send your message via that medium. And that can be TV, I don't know, that can be your tongue, that can be this desk, that can be member, that can be masjid. Anything can be a channel. When you talk on a member, it is a channel, and when you talk in the TV, it is another channel. Channel here means the way of conveying a message or transferring a message. Even your nerves are the channels. If you remember, we talked about intrapersonal communication, which is the communication with yourself, like whispering, like thinking, like looking at a scene. Your eyes are senders of the things that sees outside from outer world. The nerves are the channel that sends and transfers the message of your eyes to your brain. Brain is receiver, and you have a feedback or reflect, which is, for example, getting happy, getting worried, getting angry, and etc. So channel can be from any type of medium. To whom? To whom means receiver. To whom you are talking about, and the story of the characteristics of the receiver, and etc. that we talked in profoundly in our previous discussions. With what effect is the feedback? You know, how you can understand what is the effect of your communication with feedback. So, according to Laswell, the 1940s communication theoretician, a person gave a theory and a model. He says that there are 5 elements of communication. Now, what is Laswell's model's function? Laswell says that this model of communication that constitutes of 5 elements has 3 functions. First, it is surveillance. Surveillance is a function that, for example, the leaders are using to alert the society of the dangers, or I don't know, of the political outcomes, and also about anything, about the facts and etc. So one of the functions of communications is what? Surveillance, social surveillance. The other function of communication in his model is correlation, a function carried out by the institutions such as the educators, poll takers, designed to gather, coordinate, and integrate into meaningful form the responses of the society toward changes in the environment, etc. These are the correlation of different institutes, the correlation of the individuals, the correlations of the members of the society. So the other function of communication is correlation. When you talk to other, you are correlating, you are cooperating, you are talking to, you are, as a matter of fact, empathizing with him or her. The other benefit or function of communication is transmission. What does it mean? Here, Laswell says that the function of communication is that you, as a matter of fact, transmit your beliefs, your values, your culture, your civilization through different generations, okay, to other generations, via churches, I don't know, via schools, via mosques, and etc. So he says that the transmission is a function carried out by institutions like the family, church, school, and community in order to hand down values, norms, customs, and traditions to the next generations. So these are the 3, as a matter of fact, 3 functions of Laswell's communications. So surveillance, correlation, and transmission, and the 5 elements of his model. Laswell, in one sentence, says that communication must perform its key function to, as a matter of fact, protect, fortify, and enhance a nation's stability. As a function of communication, Laswell points out communication must perform its key functions to protect, fortify, and enhance a nation's stability. So this was the second model that we talked about, which is very important, and whomever wants to know about something about communications must know about Laswell. Laswell was the current and temporary theoretician of communication in 1948. The other, as a matter of fact, theoretician or person who has given a new model is Shannon Weaver. Shannon Weaver model, which was 1 year later after Laswell, is very similar to the Laswell's model, but with different terms. In Shannon-Weaver's mathematical model, which was, as a matter of fact, coined in 1949, he says that we have information source, and then we have a transmitter who is also the encoder. The transmitter encodes the information and transform it via a signal. Signal can be anything. Okay, can be a wave signal, electronic signal, or it can be something between the minds, or some words, some symbols. Okay, and there is a channel, which this channel sends the signals which are encoded by the transmitter via the information sources to a receiver who is decoder. So this is the fourth element of his, as a matter of fact, model. And there is a destination, as a matter of fact, which can be the somehow can be replaced with the feedback. However, in his model, there is a destination form that says that when the information source is transmitted and encoded and conveyed through a channel to a receiver, there is a destination here. And in the channel, there can be some noise sources. Okay, what are the noise sources? For example, the barriers that we talked about the physical barriers. I don't know any form of the noise which corrupts the process of communication. And for example, I don't know something which makes problem the issue of the communication. So this model was originally, as a matter of fact, designed for the telephone communication. And for example, in the phone call, this is the information source. The telephone is the transmitter, converts message into electronic signal. The telephone receiver, which converts the electronic signal into a message heard by another person, who is also destination. And there are some distorting signals, which are the noises. And this, as a matter of fact, form and the model depicts communication as one way of linear sequence, and depicts noise as an element found only within the message and not throughout the communication process. And this is the model of, as a matter of fact, Shannon-Weaver. And this is also an important theory in the issue of the models of communication. The next point, which is important in Shannon-Weaver point, is that he coined a new term, which is the field of experience. Field of experience. It is important to know. Shannon says that any person in any part of the world has a kind of field experience for him or herself. I have for myself a field of experience. You have another field of experience. What does it mean? Field of experience means the commonalities between the people, the things that people can communicate through these fields of experiences. If my field of experience is totally different from your field of experience, there will not be any form of communication. For example, there are some signs, okay, there are some signs, I don't know, showing thumb. Showing thumb, which is one of the good examples. In, for example, Iran, is a sign of slang. When you use your thumb, it is a kind of slang. In Iran, showing thumb in everyone's field of experience is a sign of insulting. But vice versa, in many countries, showing thumb is the showing victorious, saying well done, excellent, perfect. So my field of experience here is very different from a person whose field of experience is different. So what happens when he shows his thumb to you that, for example, well done, you cannot understand and you suppose that he's insulting you, so you start quarreling with one another, and that is the blockage for communication. This was just one example. Another academic example, for example, the concept of God. Okay, when you talk to a Buddhist, to a Taoist, to a person who does not believe in, or any person who does not believe in monotheism, for example, or for example to a person in Christianity, okay? When you say God, a person who is Muslim or a theologian or academic person in Islamic country, he would remember immediately Allah, which he says it is just one God. There is no partner, and there is no person associated for Him, the Almighty. In Christian context, God is Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So this field of experience is different. And this is also different from a Buddhist. When you say God, he understands another form of supreme creation, you know. This is the field of experience that I'm talking about. And there are hundreds of other examples, which is important and we have to know. So according to Shannon and Weaver model, which was very important, and a completion to other models, and it was a very advantage for his model. I mean, Shannon Weaver's model was the coinage of the issue of the field of experience. So in the field of experience, the communication will happen in the common zone of the field of experience. For example, there is one field of experience for number A, sender. There is another field of experience for the receiver. So where is the place that the communication happens? The place that these two places cut each other. So this is the common field of experience in everyone. So this was another model, which is also a very good model of the process of communication and completion to, for example, Laswell's model, which he didn't talk about as much of. He didn't talk about field of experience. He didn't talk about the cultural values. He didn't talk about the common points among the different nations of the societies and the world. So this is very important. So in very briefly, let me tell you in brief the two models that I talked about in this session. The first model was about Laswell in 1948. He talked about 5 elements: who says what, to whom, with what, through which channel, with what effect. And the other one was Shannon and Weaver. He says that there is a information source who is sending a message with, by decoding. Decodation here is a new term. And through a channel, through a medium, he sends, and the receiver gets the message and decodes it, and there is a destination. And also in the channel there are some noises. These noises can make the problem. And also all this process of communication happens among the fields of experience. And the field of experience is very important, since in the common zone of the senders and the receivers field of experience, this communication makes and gets meaning. So until another session and talking about other models, which is talking about model of Wilbur Schramm in 1954. Until that time, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.